Okay. So I wrote this book here, The Coming Religious Reich. I wrote this book in 2016. The subtitle, Exposing the Sinister Influences Sweeping the World Toward a Satanic Global Empire. The Coming Religious Reich. And folks, you don't need to go and buy the book. If you're a Vault member, you get the entire book and all my other 15 books in your membership. So you don't need to go buy it. It's in worldviewtube.com/vault. But in this book, I lay out how the globalists are pushing us back to really many of the ideas that were found in Nazism. Social justice, radical environmentalism. You have the anti-Semitism. You have the idea of dominion, taking dominion, a world empire. That's what Hitler wanted, a 1,000-year Reich. The word Reich means empire or kingdom. There's a lot of similarities between what the globalists are doing and what Hitler did. By the way, you also had Hitler took over the churches. Do you know that? He got the churches to dissolve their denominations and unite under the Reich bishop handpicked by Adolf Hitler. Are the globalists using religion today? Oh, yeah. They're using all these religious charities to flood countries like America with illegal immigrants. Doing it with religion. The Catholic charities, Catholic bishops, Lutheran groups, so-called evangelical groups, all of them NGOs, non-government organizations, getting government money, UN money as well, to flood America with illegal immigrants to take down our country. And who did Hitler work with? He also worked with the Islamists. Remember the Grand Mufti of Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Grand Mufti of Palestine, al-Husseini? Hitler worked with him, gave him an apartment in Berlin, put him on the radio. The globalists working today with the Islamists to bring down a country, a nation, to go after the Christians and the Jews as junkyard dogs. Yeah, absolutely. Many of the Marxists, by the way, when they realized Hitler was going to win, they took off their black shirts, their Antifa shirts. No joke. Go look it up. That's been around a long time, Antifa. They took off their black uniforms and put on the brown shirts. There's a lot of similarities, folks, between what happened with Nazi Germany and what's going on today with globalism. So here's the question. Could the Nazis, the globalists, the neo-Nazis of the day, the neo-globalists, whatever you want to call them, could they be trying to get America and Russia to fight to take out these two superpowers? And then they can run the table of the world, the New World Order. Joining me to talk about this and more before I play this clip by Tom Clancy's movie is Leo Hohmann. Leo Hohmann of leohohmann.com and leohohmann.substack.com. Leo, before I go to this clip, what do you make of this opening monologue here?
Oh, it's very accurate, and it's a
up on his volume a tad, will you?
Yeah, it is a scenario, Brandon, that very few Americans are aware of, but it's very real. In fact, the top diplomat for the EU, and I would argue, by the way, that the EU was the natural progression of the Nazi fascists. The merging of Europe is something that Hitler always wanted to do. He wanted to conquer all of Europe. Well, the post-World War II fascists figured out a way to do that without firing a shot. It was called the European Common Market. And they started with economics instead of politics, and then they gradually moved it into a political union, which is today the European Union. And the top diplomat for the European Union today is a woman who is the former Prime Minister of Estonia. Estonia, one of the Baltic countries. Her name is Kaja Kallas. And she stated in May 2024, just less than a year ago, at a debate, a public debate, that she believed Russia should be broken up into several smaller countries. And so I got to researching, and I found out that this is not unique to Kaja Kallas, the top diplomat, head of foreign policy for the EU. The Helsinki Commission, which is a U.S. government entity, on June 23rd of 2022 actually gave a hearing before Congress. This was during the peak of the COVID lockdown, so they did it online, remotely. And you can go and watch that conference today. It's still online. And they proposed this commission, Helsinki Commission, which is a post-World War II European security conference that is headed by the United States, Britain, France, Germany. They proposed on July 23rd, 2022, in this hearing before Congress, that Russia be dealt a strategic defeat. Remember, this was already slightly after the Ukraine war had broken out, a couple months before that. And they said Russia needed to be dealt a strategic defeat and broken up into multiple countries.
Well, there you go.
This has been the plan all along, to destroy Russia as a great power, break it up into several smaller countries, and steal its resources. This has been the Nazi plan as well. Hitler planned the same thing, to dominate global resources. And by dominating the resources, you dominate the politics and the economy of the entire world.
Wow. Well, we're going to have more to say about this after this video, but I want to play it because I think you're going to be stunned. There are two scenes in the movie, and whoever put this on YouTube, because I went looking for it, combined the two clips. But the two clips don't come together like this in the movie. They're two separate scenes. But someone took the two pieces, put them together as one clip that is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And I'm glad they did. Took me a while to find it, but I did, because persistence pays off. And
yes,
when you see this, folks, you're going to go, was Tom Clancy trying to warn us? Now, the guy you're going to see speaking right away is a Nazi, okay? And he obviously is speaking to a group of people that are sympathetic to his ideology, whether they know he's a, quote, Nazi or not, or whether they just agree with his ideology, which is, consistent with the Nazi worldview he purports to believe in. And one reason we know this is, as you watch this scene, he's speaking, and the camera pans down to his watch. And on the back of his watch that is sitting on the podium, he's taking his watch off. A lot of speakers will take their watch off when they speak so they can see the time without looking at their watch, which is kind of distracting to people listening. And he has put his watch on his podium, and the camera pans down, and you see a swastika has been etched into the underneath back part of his watch. Listen and watch. Here we go.
So what shall we make of Chechnya asking the West for protection? She is like a beautiful virgin, escaping the clutches of a lecherous bear, and running to Bill Clinton to save her maidenhood. A poet once wrote, "Meet the new boss, same as the old boss." He could have been writing of us, of Europe in the 21st century. Over 50 years of America and Russia imposing their will on the European community, East and West. And we are still treated like children, but without the toys or the goodnight chocolates. Each day we lose a little bit more of our separate, sovereign ability to determine our own futures. And each day the world comes just a little bit closer to that terrible moment when the beating of a butterfly's wings unleashes a hurricane God himself cannot stop.
All right, let me stop right there before we go to the next scene. What do you make of that?
Evil, pure evil. And one of the main, tenets of these people is, it's not just they don't have a belief in God. It's not just atheists. They hate God. And their entire agenda is built around trying to one-up God, trying to mock God, trying to become more powerful than God, trying to undo and stop the prophecies of God from coming true. That's why they hate Jews and want to wipe them out. That's the spiritual dynamic of it, which he touched on right there in that last sentence of the video.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the next scene, which is really going to tie it all together. Here we go.
Most people believe the 20th century was defined by the death struggle of communism versus capitalism, and that fascism was but a hiccup. Today we know better. Communism was a fool's errand. The followers of Marx gone from this earth, but the followers of Hitler are bound and thrive. Hitler, however, had one great disadvantage. He lived in a time when fascism, like a virus, like the AIDS virus, needed a strong host in order to spread. Germany was that host, but strong as it was, Germany could not prevail. The world was too big. Fortunately, the world has changed. Global communications, cable TV, the internet. Today the world is smaller, and the virus does not need a strong host in order to spread. This virus is airborne. One more thing. Let no man call us crazy. They called Hitler crazy, but Hitler wasn't crazy. He was stupid. You don't fight Russia and America. You get Russia and America to fight each other and destroy each other.
And that scene right there is they're bringing in a machine, a vending machine with a nuclear weapon in it. It was in Tom Clancy's movie. This was in Baltimore, Maryland. And these Nazis had acquired the material. You watch the movie to find out. They had acquired the material in order to have brought into the country and assembled. They had assembled and then shipped into the country the vending machine, which had already been pre-built, and it was shipped into the country and then put into place. And you can watch the movie to find out how they acquired this nuclear weapon. But notice what he said. What you do is you get you get America and Russia to fight each other. And that's really what we're seeing going on, is it not?
Yes, Brandon, I've actually never even seen that movie.
Oh, you've not seen it? Well, you should watch it tonight.
No. And yet, that is what I've been saying, isn't it, for months?
Yep.
That if I were the globalist, the most efficient, cost-effective way to get my way and instill global government, because in order to instill and implement global government, you've got to destroy nations. And in order to destroy nations, you've got to destroy the most powerful nations. And right now, that starts with the United States of America and Russia. China is pretty much all on board with it. But there's a powerful segment of population in America and in Russia that the globalists know there is no way they would go along with surrendering their sovereignty and pledging fealty to some sort of outside global entity. So they've got to take those two countries down, and then all the dominoes will fall. All the currencies will fall. The nations will be lined up for some new system to protect their interests and stop their economies from going into complete poverty. And that all starts with the United States and Russia going to war, Brandon. I've been saying this for months now, and it's interesting that Tom Clancy saw it years ago.
Well, he sure did. He sure did. And tonight on the Worldview Report, we had the report. Leo's our senior producer for that report. The German chancellor, the man set to be Germany's new chancellor, just signed an agreement, or reached an agreement with Germany's parliament to dispatch 5,000 German troops to the Lithuanian border as NATO deployment. It's a NATO deployment. I mean, so clearly, again, here we are. These Europeans, these globalists in Europe are pushing us to World War III. They want to see World War III, doing it under NATO, because then Article 5 kicks in and America's got to come and get involved with a war to protect our allies through our agreements through NATO Thus, we find ourselves in a war with Russia. Now, the greater concern has been, and you and I have been saying it for months and months and months, has been a false flag event that gets blamed on Russia. That's what the sum of all fears is about. These Nazis bring this nuclear weapon into the U.S. disguised as a vending machine and let a nuclear weapon off in Baltimore, Maryland. The president just barely escapes being in the football stadium with the CIA director, Morgan Freeman, played by Morgan Freeman. And the young Jack Ryan, the lead character in Clancy's movies, is trying to convince the president, who just about died, that this was not Russia, that this is a setup. And he's trying to get the American president and the Russian president to talk to each other and to come for the U.S. president not to do a retaliatory strike. And again, folks should rewatch the movie, because you and I have been warning for months about a false flag operation in America. And we have said, if there is an explosion, a terrorist attack, a massive attack in America, we should very quickly question who was behind it. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think we now have the globalists, some of these globalists in our own CIA. I think we have some of these globalists that have penetrated inside our own government, which of course is why these globalists did not want Donald Trump being president the first time or the second time. So if they're willing to let a president, former president and presidential candidate almost get assassinated, what else would they do, right? Well, look what they did with us to us through COVID and all these other things have been doing to us for decades and decades, right? So we know that these people in this federal government, many of them, they're not loyal to America. And you and I know that through Operation Paperclip, a bunch of the Nazis were brought here to America. And they were put into our government from NASA. I think even the Republican Party took a bunch of them into their employment. And our CIA knew we had Nazis hiding out in America. They used them. They controlled them. Our CIA was involved in this. I think Edwin Black has written on this as well.
Yeah. Yep. Alan Dulles was involved in it. One of the early forefathers of the CIA. Brannon, he was 100% involved in this, in bringing over thousands of Nazis, put them into our military hierarchy, put them into NASA, put them into large corporate boardrooms. Absolutely, Brannon. And it continues to this day. It continues to this day. And that's why we're seeing this escalation, a little bit more every week, a little bit more every month. Now we see German troops being pushed to the border of Russia in Lithuania, of all places. They're talking about bringing French and British troops, the coalition of the willing, they call it, and putting them into Ukraine and stacking Ukraine with Western NATO troops now that we've burned through most of the Ukrainian troops. So their end game is to attack Russia through more than likely through Ukraine. And so that's why they've been expanding and enlarging NATO over the years. It started out with 12 or 13 countries. It's now up to 32 countries. Finland and Sweden are the newest members. They wanted to bring Ukraine in. This would have fully encircled Russia's western border. And so Putin, if he wants to stay in power, cannot accept this. People say Putin's a dictator, Putin's a tyrant. Well, that may be the case, but he's also trying to protect the sovereignty of Russia, and that is a very popular thing in Russia. Imagine that. Imagine Russians wanting to protect their border, just like Americans want us to protect our border. What would we do if we had Russian or Chinese troops in Mexico firing missiles into Texas? I think we would take a little umbrage at that. And so the refusal of so many people to look at the Russia-Ukraine situation through the eyes of history and the Nazification of Ukraine, some of the most it's no accident that the West used Ukraine as its proxy to fight Russia, because there are more Nazis today anywhere in Europe. They're mostly in Ukraine. The Azov Battalion is a Nazi battalion in the Ukrainian military. It is some of the most fierce fighters in the Ukrainian military force. And this is what Putin fears. And this is why Putin invaded and has been trying over the last 3 years to degrade those Nazi forces. He's largely accomplished his goal. And now the West, seeing that it has burned through most of those Nazi forces, is talking about bringing its own forces in, and I expect that to happen probably sometime in 2025 or 2026.
Here's from my book, The Coming Religious Reich. Eric Lichtblau wrote the book, The Nazis Next Door. The Nazis Next Door. And in October 26, 2014, an article in the New York Times, he revealed the following. This is just bullet points. In the decades after World War II, the CIA and other United States agencies employed at least 1,000 Nazis as Cold War spies and informants, and recently as the 1990s, concealed the government's ties to some still living in America. Newly disclosed records and interviews show. They believe the ex-Nazis' intelligence value against the Russians outweighed what one official called moral lapses in their service to the Third Reich. Really, moral lapses, extermination of 6 million Jews, 5 million non-Jews.
Huh.
In 1994, a lawyer with the CIA pressured prosecutors to drop an investigation into an ex-spy outside Boston implicated in the Nazi massacre of tens of thousands of Jews in Lithuania, according to a government official. Some spies in the United States had worked...
Isn't that interesting? Lithuania.
Yep.
And that's now where the Germans are stationing troops.
Yep. Some spies for the United States had worked at the highest levels of the Nazis. One SS officer, Otto von Blauschwing, was a member and top aide to Adolf Eichmann, architect of the final solution, and wrote policy papers on how to terrorize Jews. Yet after the war, the CIA not only hired him as a spy in Europe, but relocated him and his family to New York City in 1954, records show. The move was seen as a, quote, reward for his loyal post-war service and in view of his what is that word? Innocence?
Innocuousness.
Innocuous, thank you. Innocuousness of his Nazi party activities, end quote, the agency wrote. When Justice Department was preparing in 1994 to prosecute a senior Nazi collaborator in Boston, there's his name, Alexandros Lilikis, the CIA tried to intervene. The agency's own files linked Mr. Lilikis to the machine gun massacre of 60,000 Jews. Where? In Lithuania.
Yeah.
He worked under the control of the Gestapo during the war, his CIA file noted, and was possibly connected with the shooting of Jews in Vilna. And there's a lot more, folks. I am just scratching the surface. Not to mention we had IBM heavily involved, and you should read Edwin Black's book, Nazi Holocaust, IBM and the Nazi Holocaust. The point I'm making is the Nazis infiltrated our government. People thought what the Nazis did was just a moral lapse. Really, I think some of them agreed with their ideology. Don't forget, we had anti-Semitism running rampant in America prior to World War II. There was a particular Catholic priest, Father, it'll come to me. He was on the radio preaching his anti-Semitism, Father Coughlin. He was preaching his anti-Semitism on nationwide radio. This dude was like the Billy Graham, if you will, of radio. And he was preaching this anti-Semitism, Father Coughlin. And this anti-Semitism was permeating America. I think it was the USS St. Louis that our own government refused to let land here in America with Jews on it, fleeing World War II and the Holocaust, only to be sent back to Europe where most of them died. I think I write about that. USS St. Louis. I think I write about that in this book as well. But yeah, it's, I think we had a lot of people in our government that were very sympathetic to the worldview of the Nazis, in part because of the connection. Here it is. This is on page 459 of The Coming Religious Reich. I had to do the old Control F to find it. In June 1939, America refused to allow the SS St. Louis to land in America and give refuge and safe harbor to Semitic passengers. In Refugee Denied, the St. Louis Passengers in the Holocaust, Sarah A. Ogilvie and Scott Miller reveal the fate of the fate of those America refused to embrace and protect. Quote, I'm having a hard time reading tonight. Quote, of the 620 St. Louis passengers, again, that's the name of the ship, who returned to continental Europe, we determined that 87 were able to immigrate before Germany invaded Western Europe on May 10th, 1940. 254 passengers in Belgium, France, and the Netherlands after that date died during the Holocaust. Most of these people were murdered in the killing centers of Auschwitz and Sobibor. The rest died in internment camps, in hiding or attempting to evade the Nazis. 365 of the 620 passengers who returned to continental Europe survived the war, end quote. And well, of course, again, that was because anti-Semitism with Father Coughlin all over the radio was greatly influencing our elected officials as well. So what I'm saying is America has had these people in our government, in religious systems for a long time. And now, of course, many of these globalists in our government are trying to do their part to get America to go to war. So it's not just the globalists in America, it's the globalists all over this world and in Europe, at the UN and NATO, these globalists, these neo-Nazis that want America and Russia to fight so they can get rid of these two strong empires and then roll into the New World Order. You cannot have the New World Order if you have the sovereignty of individual nations. We had this told to us by Bill Clinton's own roommate. Bill Clinton's own roommate, I don't even know if I'm going to come up with it now, but Bill Clinton's own roommate, who went on to go to the State Department, he was like Assistant Secretary of State. What was his name? His college roommate that went on, Strobe Talbert was his name. The hard drive will catch up in a minute. Strobe Talbert went on to talk about we can't have individual nation states, they must give way. You cannot have a nationalistic fervor in America or in Russia. We've got to get rid of these two nations. And I think the globalists / new Nazis of the day want these two empires to fight. And that's, I think, what Tom Clancy, God rest his soul, was trying to warn us.
Yes. And, you know, they hide under this premise of democracy. They always talk about they're defending democracy.
Right.
What they're really defending is a fascist system of government that they're trying to bring in over time. And there's also a fascist element to the whole technocracy movement that Patrick Wood talks about. You know, you could make the case that the very first technocrats to actually implement that system on a group of people were the Nazis in Germany. You know, they used the IBM punch cards and the highest technology of the day to spy on people, to keep tabs on people, to, kill their. And another very big premise of this fascist dictatorship system that they want to implement is the curtailment of freedom of speech. I mean, look at the treatment of people who spoke the truth about COVID and the COVID vaccine. You know, Rainer Fuhlmisch was a German attorney. He's sitting in a German prison to this day because he dared to speak the truth about COVID, lockdowns, and vaccines. The so-called democracy of Germany has a law-abiding, patriotic, Christian man locked up in prison for speaking the truth. We've seen the same thing going on in the UK, where you can now be locked up for posting a meme on Facebook. I kid you not. We've seen how, and a lot of these new fascist and technocratic fascists, by the way, are Jewish. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, head of Facebook. Information has come out, godless Jews I'm talking about, not actual. Right.
Like the governor of Pennsylvania, yes. Shapiro, who just gave $5 million to what I think is a terrorist-tied-linked mosque.
Yes. And Zuckerberg's Facebook, it just came out yesterday, was colluding with the government of China, the Chinese Communist Party, to use censorship tools on Facebook to keep those people in line with government dictates. And so these people have no conscience. They may call themselves Americans, but they have no allegiance to America. People like Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, George Soros. Some are Jewish, some are Gentile. There's no, there's no pattern of them all being Jewish, like some of the conspiracy conservatives tend to try to convince us. We have both just as evil. That the common denominator is power and money, not religion or race, but power over people and money. That's always been the Nazi modus operandi, and it still is today.
Oh, well said. And then look at this headline today. Congressmen tell Glenn Beck they're being monitored and threatened by the CIA. He said he's had several conversations with members of Congress who have told him to make sure you leave your phone outside. You don't have your iWatch on, do you? Get rid of all this stuff and let's go for a walk. And then they'll say outside as we're walking quietly, the CIA is monitoring everything that we're doing in Congress. They're monitoring all of us.
Well, do you recall, Brandon, under Barack Obama, the CIA, the government, was monitoring, they had bugs monitoring the Associated Press news offices.
Yep. Remember this? Remember the NSA director? The NSA director went to Trump Tower after he was president-elect and told Trump, get out of there, you're being monitored.
Yes. So this is the curtailment of free speech, freedom of expression, the free press, the media. None of that exists under Nazism. And so that's why you see the growing Nazi states of Europe and America before Donald Trump took over and stopped a lot of this. Under Biden, we were heading the exact same way. Under Barack Obama, we were heading that way. They absolutely hate the truth. And so how do you combat the truth? Remember Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda officer, Joseph Goebbels, he said if you tell a big enough lie and tell it often enough, people will believe it. Mm-hmm. And they know that they cannot propagandize the masses and make them believe their lies as long as we have a free press and a First Amendment free speech. That's why they're so militant in attacking those two things.
Yep. And LifeSite News says the CIA has a long history of controversy for engaging in unconstitutional, illegal, and evil activities. Most grievous is its documented use of torture, such as in Project MK-Ultra, a human control program, and the training of groups that have killed civilians and helped overthrow democratically elected governments, end quote. Well, that's what's going on now. And you wonder then why the CIA is monitoring some members of Congress. Because some of them, they know what's going on. They're not for this globalism. They don't want to go to World War III. They're not playing along.
The biggest lie, remember Goebbels said, don't tell a small lie, tell a big lie. Tell a big lie and repeat it continuously. And what is the biggest lie we're being told today? That we live in a democracy, and that the Western European countries are democracies, and we must defend these democracies. The heck we do. These aren't democracies. These are totalitarian systems, soft communism in a way, but really fascism, big government working with big business to curtail and crack down on free speech and to make us less and less free. We are no longer a free people when our income is, a quarter of our income is spoken for every year and stolen by the government and then used to go fund, condoms for Gaza and LGBTQ comic books in Peru. That is not freedom, folks. And so do not believe the lie that we are a free people living in a democracy. That is nothing but the big Nazi lie that they repeat endlessly. And when they say they're defending it, think of it this way. They're defending their Nazi interests. That's what they're calling democracy.
Yep, 100%. And of course, what you're describing, that big government, big business merging, is corporate fascism, also known as communitarianism, the third way. You take the one idea and another idea and you merge them for a third option, which is this fascist system. And that's what Hitler was doing. The National Socialist Workers' Party was a fascist system. And so nothing's really new under the sun. And we're headed back to another Reich. And they've got to stop those who are warning about these things and trying to stop us from going to World War III. They've got to control these people. They've got to intimidate these people. They've got to threaten these people. And frankly, I don't think you would ever see a program like this on, say, Fox News, because I think Fox News, in my opinion, is part of this. I think they are heavily involved with the fascist government system, the CIA, the deep state. I mean, why Sean Hannity for years wasn't that a CIA pin he wore on his shirt for years? I mean, Fox News, tell me they're not controlled opposition or willingly going along with this system. Most outlets would never do a segment like we just did tonight because A, they don't understand it, and B, they're not about to expose it. This is the system they're all playing in, and we're not playing in that system.
That's why you never saw Fox News. While they report a lot of stuff from a conservative position, you never heard them tell the truth about the vaccines. You never heard them tell the truth about the election steal and the whole election integrity issue with voting machines being tampered with. All that's coming out now. Isn't that interesting? Tulsi Gabbard just come out yesterday at that cabinet meeting and exposed the whole thing. She said our system is compromised. It's able to be manipulated remotely. What did they tell us? A big lie for years. Oh, these voting machines are not, they have no access to online activity. They're not connected to the internet. Wrong. We knew it was wrong the whole time. They were lying to us. Brandon, it's time for people to wake up and realize that their government and the mainstream media, they specialize in telling big lies and repeating them constantly.
And amen. And this is why the globalists want to use the courts, like the International Criminal Court, to put indictments against Benjamin Netanyahu, put indictments against Putin, put indictments against President Trump. Any leader that doesn't go along with their globalist ideas, they're going to use the international organizations to try to bring them down. And that's when they're not stopping like the Viktor Orban in Hungary, or the new leader rising in Romania? Is that the one they've tried to stop him? Yep. Arrested him. So you see that you see this is all going on, but most Americans and people around the world do not connect the dots like we have just done. Why are they going after strong nationalist leaders? Netanyahu has his problems, but he's trying to protect his country. Donald Trump is not perfect, but he's trying to protect his country. Putin, I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing as far as, some of his worldview inside his country, but he's trying to protect his Russian culture and history and heritage. He's doing what he believes is best for his nation. Viktor Orban, the guy in Romania who's rising as a Trump-style Romania First candidate. Notice who they all go after, the type of leaders they go after, right?
Yes, exactly. Georgescu in Romania is a prime example. Robert Fico, I believe is his name, in, what was it? One of the other Eastern European countries escapes me right now. He's another one. And so, yeah, they go after these type of strong nationalist leaders, populist leaders. People, Putin is wildly popular in Russia. People call him a dictator. Maybe he is, but Russia has a history of being led by dictators. Some good, some benevolent, I should say. No dictator's really good, but some are more benevolent than others. They have their nation's more interests more at heart than others, whereas some are just trying to, milk the system and get rich and empower and enrich their friends and family. But Russia has no history of a constitutional republic, okay? And that's their choice. That's the will of their people. And so why is it up to the West to define and decide what type of government and what type of leader they will have in Russia? It's not. But that's why they want to break the country up, because it's too powerful as it is. It has too many resources to compete with the West. It doesn't foment the Green New Deal climate change agenda when you've got cheap gas and oil flowing out of a strong Russian state that blows up the entire climate change Green New Deal model that they want to bring into place with the carbon credit taxes and all of that. And so Putin's got to go, and Russia needs to be broken up into a host of smaller countries. That's the agenda. That's the game plan. We're living in the midst of that playing out right now. It remains to be seen whether the globalists will succeed with this or not, Brandon, but you can't say they're not trying. My goodness, they are trying, and the way to bring it all about is through World War III. Entire maps tend to get rewritten after major wars. Look what happened after World War II. They rewrote the maps. They have the same plan for World War III, and on the ashes of that war, they will redraw the maps and have a whole new international economic system in place.
Yep, 100%. And I think Tom Clancy tried to warn us, and there's the line. The Nazi says, the fascist says, you get Russia and America to fight each other. There you go. I wonder if Tom Clancy was trying to warn us, Leo.
You know, I've got to watch that movie, Brandon.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the significance of it when it came out, but now, wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me know what you think. And great segment. LeoHolman.com, LeoHolman.com, and LeoHolman.substack.com.
And I have a fresh article about everything we've been talking about at my Substack right now.
Well, let me go there. Let me go there real quick. Let me go there. LeoHolman.substack.com. There it is. There it is. In the latest escalation, German troops moved to Russian border Lithuania, first time post-World War II. It's looking more and more inevitable that World War III is on the near horizon.
It is.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, Leo, there are very few Americans preparing for World War III. But my family's been preparing. You've been preparing. You and I talk often. You and I are both always updating our prepper plans, updating stuff, because you and I know that likely this will happen when we least expect it. You're going to wake up one morning, something's going to have happened, and you're going to go, oh my, we're in the thick of it now. And there will be very little time for most people to prepare.
Absolutely spot on, Brandon. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Leo. LeoHolman.substack.com, LeoHolman.substack.com. And folks, if you do want to prepare, go over to Worldview Store, worldviewstore.com. We have a lot of stuff there for you. Freeze-dried food, 3 months, 6 month, a year, 2 year. We have potassium iodide. We have all kinds of emergency supplies, as well as the food, as I said, and then the supplies as well. Sutures, gas masks, 100-hour candles, water containers that are collapsible, the EMT medical trauma bags, ready-hour blood clot powder, all kinds of stuff is there. Because again, we're living in very, very perilous times, and sadly, most Americans are not aware of this at all. Well, as you saw when I was beginning that interview with Leo, Melissa brought me my nightly Gatatana. And so again, folks, you see I drink it every night. I do it on air because I want you to realize I really do take this each and every day. Dolly gets half a scoop on her food every morning. I don't give it to her at night because I need her to settle down and go to sleep at night. I'm going to set this off to the side and work on that throughout the night here as we keep interviewing people. But I do hope you'll go to melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. Get a subscription. This is got science behind it. It's the real deal. I take my Gatatana every day, my Bella Grace. I swish with my Numi. Folks, get a subscription. I'll probably plug this again before the evening is over, but I want you to take this very, very seriously. It's a great way for you to support us.